So the backstory that Corey and I have been talking about is that apparently they're making a sequel to Final Fantasy XIII, and I decided I needed to record this because I can't imagine they got any kind of feedback at all from any Squaresoft or, you know, any Final Fantasy fans at all that said, you know what, this is a fantastic storyline. We should make a sequel to it.
Agreed. I mean, the only thing I can think of that they're doing is they're going to be recycling assets. So the production cost is going to be a lot lower than the first one. They put so much time, so much money into that, and it just didn't return for them, I bet. So might be a good way to try to see a return on investment, but...
If they made it a standalone sequel, maybe. Like, I think you could play Final Fantasy X-2 by itself. You wouldn't get a lot out of it, but I think you could.
The trailer for it was the biggest spoiler I've ever seen. It's like I haven't beaten the game, but yeah, it pretty much spoiled the entire ending in the first 10 seconds. I was just like, okay, so now I know what happened. I really don't need to
finish the game.
I really don't need to finish the game. So I was kind of annoyed with that, but if they're going to do this, and they're going to do it, like, right, they need to really abandon what they tried to do and get back to the roots. We need towns. You know, none of this on the road, you're buying stuff through computer terminals. That was just ridiculous. Yeah. Bring back the dialogue with the NPCs. I mean, why do I have to walk up to one of them just to kind of overhear what they're chatting about? I might want to walk up and talk to them, you know? It's like...
I think both are good. I like the idea of overhearing people, because at first I was like, this is kind of cool. It's like, you know, it's more realistic. People are talking whether or not I'm going to be there, you know? So it's cool that you could overhear conversations, but I definitely agree. You need to be able to engage with people. That's role-playing, not sitting through a movie fighting battles to see more movie. That's not a role-playing. That was just a PG, in my opinion.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, if they're going to go that route, it needs to be almost small talk with whoever's around them. And then when you walk up, either your character asks them a question, or they give you some information that they wouldn't be saying generally in the small talk. Because now you've been added to the conversation.
Right.
And then, I don't know, the battle for 13 was just a button mash fest.
I think they need to go back to turn-based.
Yeah, I'm tired. I don't like active.
I mean, I know turn-based is old school, but...
Okay, now, Final Fantasy... Sorry. We're eating Chinese food, and I just swallowed some peppers. Anyways, Final Fantasy, all the classics on the NES... in the SNES, turn-based. Got to the PlayStation. We had 7, awesome battle system.
Yep.
8, relatively decent battle system. 9,
everyone likes 9.
Still turn-based, worked perfectly. 10, spear grid, but worked really well. Still turn-based. You can pull characters in and out. 11 was online, so that doesn't really count. 12 sucked. But it started introducing more into the MMO-based battle system,
which I think was a mistake.
I hated.
I think it was a mistake.
And then now 13 is still building upon the mistakes that 12 made.
Right.
So really, there has not been a good game since 10.
Right.
You know,
and 10 was a fantastic game. But like, it's still. I want to go back to this. It baffles me. Who thought it would be a good idea to make a sequel of arguably one of the shittiest Final Fantasy games ever?
That is, I don't know.
Like, who thought that was a great idea? Like, the story... Okay, I would sit through a shitty-ass battle system if it had a good story.
And that was the issue, you know. The story itself was just so convoluted. I mean, 7, 8, and 9 had good stories. They were presented in a way that made it interesting and intriguing. You know, basically, they weren't trying to throw so much like world-based jargon in your face that you did not feel like you were part of the conversation or part of the story that was going on.
Right.
In 13, there were you had Falsey, you had the two worlds, Cocoon and Pulse. You had all these kind of weird-sounding things. And you really had no grounding as to what they were. I mean, like, you know, for instance, if you did not go through...
You couldn't relate, yeah.
Yeah, if you did not go through and read the dialogue, like their journals, which...
They were long. They were so long.
But if you didn't read them, you had no idea that each one of the fal'Cie was different systems that kept the world of Cocoon working. So
I didn't know that.
You had like Carbuncle, you had all the different ones that they mentioned off. Like one of them was actually like their government. One acted as a as like the life of the place. So like the sun, it regulated like growing things. One was more of an economy. So it's like you really kind of got an understanding of what these things do and why they're here and what their purpose is. Sure. But that was never told to you by the characters once. It was kind of like we were sitting. I mean, really, I'm sorry. It was almost like we were foreigners in their land, tagging along, and we had no clue what the hell was going on.
I could say that. And you know, I saw this on Reddit the other day. Someone related. Remember that game Lost Odyssey? Mm-hmm. Did you finish that?
I never actually got through it. I never played it, honestly.
Dude, if you want what should have been Final Fantasy 12 or 13, play the game. Yes, long load times. Yes, an ass load of frame tearing. But the story, combined with just a straight up old school battle system, you know, with some twists, as they always do, is what is Final Fantasy. And I know we talked about it. It's you know, a lot of the same crew. But dude, this
was Mistwalker, the guy who made Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and like you can tell, man. You can tell. You can easily get into this game, and although it does not have the polishing that you would just die to have in a Final Fantasy game, the roots are there, and you can play the game and you can see them. I finished that game 4 discs long, and it was a fantastic game. But to hear someone call it that, to hear someone call it was the game you wished was Final Fantasy 12 or 13. And you know, someone replied to it. They're like, no, because you'd find other reasons to hate it because you compare it to things like 12 and 7. And I'm like, no, man, because in my opinion, Lost Odyssey could stand toe-to-toe. It would lose, but it could stand toe-to-toe with those two games. And easily would come on top over 12 and 13 any day. And like, I mean, you get the story, which is relatable. In Lost Odyssey, you have these, they're these, I don't know, it's these things you unlock, but you read them. They're stories. Okay. And they're written so well. And through the Reddit thread, you know, I understand Reddit is it's a typical, it's a type of person that would read Reddit, but it received a lot of fanfare. I mean, everyone seemed to like it, and I really liked it. I thought they were written really well. They were very moving. No, they weren't read to you, but I mean, they weren't that long. Like, it was just a short story, and it was written so well.
You know, kind of coming back to what you were saying, it's like Lost Odyssey. It seems like they focused more on the important aspects of game development. They had a killer soundtrack. They had a good world. They had a great gameplay mechanic. They may or may not have had the best visuals and performance at the time, but it seems like Square ended up putting so much emphasis in the visuals of Final Fantasy 13. You know, because I mean, they coded their own engine, the Crystal engine. I mean, they put so much focus on that everything else just kind of suffered. You know?
Yeah, they lost sight of where they came from,
and they realized that too. I mean, even in interviews, you know, like they would not have had the time to go back and build, you know, cities and a world map at the quality level they did for each one of those I guess you could say set pieces. That's why the game is very much linear, because their scope.
I agree.